Hi, welcome to .NET Core tutorial. Today we will discuss about middleware and .NET Core applications. In this video, we will discuss what is middleware in the ASP.NET Core, how to configure middleware components in ASP.NET Core, what are the execution orders of middleware components. So let's understand what is middleware component. In ASP.NET Core, middleware components are the software components which are nothing but C# classes that are assembled into the application pipeline to handle the HTTP requests and responses. So a middleware component in the ASP.NET Core can choose whether to pass the HTTP request to the next component in the pipeline. Also, a middleware in ASP.NET Core can perform work before and after the next component in the pipeline. Each middleware component in the request pipeline is responsible for invoking the next component in the pipeline or short-circuiting the pipeline. When a middleware in ASP.NET Core short circuits the pipeline, it's called as a terminal middleware because it prevents the further middlewares from processing the request. In ASP.NET Core, there are many built-in middleware components which are available for use. Apart from these built-in middlewares, a user can create his own custom middleware components. Now we might think why we need a middleware and what are the purposes it serves. So let's understand it. So a particular middleware in a ASP.NET Core can be used for authenticating the users, or it might be used for logging the details of the request and response, or it can be used for serving the static files to the client browsers such as images, JavaScript, or CSS files. Or a particular middleware can be used for authenticating user for specific resources, or it can be used for RBAC processing. Now let's understand how to configure the middleware and where to configure it. In ASP.NET Core applications, we will configure the middleware components within the configure method of the startup class, which is present in the startup.cs file. So let me switch to Visual Studio. So when you create a new project, you can see one of the startup.cs file. In this startup.cs file, we have a method called configure. In this configure method, whenever we want to configure any middleware components, we need to configure it within the configure method of the startup class by calling the use method. That's on the use method, and this is present in the iApplication Builder object. So here each middleware can perform operations before and after the next middleware is executed. So exception handling middleware such as use developer exception page should be called early in the pipeline so that they can catch exceptions that occur in later stages of the pipeline. So with ASP.NET Core applications, the middleware component can have access to both incoming and outgoing HTTP requests and responses. So a middleware component in ASP.NET Core can handle the incoming HTTP request by generating an HTTP response, and also it can process the incoming HTTP request, modify it, and then pass it to the next middleware component. So in ASP.NET Core applications, the middleware component can have access to both incoming HTTP request and outgoing HTTP response. So a middleware component in the ASP.NET Core can handle the incoming HTTP request by generating an HTTP response, which is we call it as a terminal middleware, and a middleware can process the incoming HTTP request, modify it, then pass it to the next middleware component. As you can see, that is being done by middleware 1 and middleware 2. Also, a middleware can process the outgoing HTTP response, modify it, then pass it to either the next middleware component or to the ASP.NET Core web servers. As you can see that the final middleware 1 is doing it. Now let's see what should be the ideal execution order of the middleware. So this diagram shows the complete request processing pipeline for the ASP.NET Core MVC and Razor page web apps. You can see how in a typical app existing middlewares are ordered and where the custom custom middlewares are added. Ideally, custom middlewares will be at the end, and these will be in between the authorization middleware and before calling the endpoint middleware. You have a control over how to reorder these existing middlewares or inject new custom middlewares in any kind of order. But this is the ideal way where we need this is the ideal way how to order the middlewares. Now let's switch to Visual Studio to understand how to create our simple custom middleware which writes some information and chain to the next middleware and returns a response. So let me complete the code and then I will explain you what exactly code is doing. So as earlier discussed, we use method to create middlewares or call or configure the middlewares. So here I have created two middlewares. So each middleware has two specific jobs. So it writes some specific message to the request and response and then calls the next middleware in the pipeline. So in order to chain a request in the pipeline, we use next method. So if you want to short circuit up the pipeline, then you will not call this next.invoke method. So by this way, we will be short circuiting the entire pipeline and the request will not be sent to the use endpoints middleware and the response will be redirected from here. So let me execute this solution. So as per this image, what it says that when the request comes to the middleware and it needs to execute some logic, and then by using the next method, it calls the middleware 2. So here you can see that the first method is there. Then the, it has called the second middleware. Then it has called the endpoint middleware, which has written our worker process name. Then the response has been created from the endpoint middleware and it has been sent to the middleware 2 where we have written the message second custom middleware in while processing returning response and the first middleware or custom middleware which has written the response. I hope this image is now clear to you. So now let let's short circuit the pipeline by not calling the next dot invoke. So let me comment it out and let me execute it and see what is the output. So as you can see, the pipeline was short circuited after the second middleware has been executed and you are not able to see the worker process name over here. That's all as part of this video tutorial. Thank you.